is Ruckus. Thanks for joining. Please like, subscribe, and share. 10-8. What's going on, everybody? Happy Thanksgiving. Hope everybody ate way too much. Half of you probably tired from the turkey. I have Miss Ivy Rose with me. How are you, Ivy? Are you there, Ivy? Okay, let's see what we got here. That there's a situation in the green room. Let me see. This is odd. All right, let me see. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Oh,
Are you
there we
there?
go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but I had a little snafu there. Technical difficulties. You know how it is.
Yeah. So, yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for having me on again.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming on. I just wanted to interact with the chat tonight. Keep it kind of mellow. I'm sure that some people will try and gear it up a little bit, but that's okay. Hey, Four Pits, Jill Moser, Metal Mama. Let's see who else we got here. Got Sleuth. What's up, Sleuth? How you doing? Kyra De Bruin. Kyra, man, I always get her. You know, I'm an idiot with names. I'm horrible. Melissa, how are you? Frosty, what's shaking? Just Deb, how are you? Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. CJK. And you guys can go ahead and chat amongst yourselves in the chat, but I'll be putting up most of the chat. I've been listening to Ivy. Oh, that's my cousin. Hey, I love you too, babe.
We've got family in here.
But yeah, I have more than one. I have some law enforcement buddies that come in here too. Yeah, they love all the crap people talk about me. Hey, Junior.
I think it would be hard for me to watch a family member that I was close to on YouTube because of that. I'd have
Yeah,
a hard time not going back at people.
yeah, yeah. My family, if you knew them, they usually would, but she's reserved. She understands. Con Connery, how are you, sir? Miss Gail, how are you? Happy Thanksgiving. Olivia, too. Jari says gobble gobble. Can you see the chat? Is it big enough for you to see it? Are you on your phone?
Yeah, I'm on my phone.
Can you see it? Is it big enough?
Well, I mean, I just have the regular chat pulled up on my phone, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Oh, yeah,
Good.
sorry. I'm on my laptop with you, and then I have my phone with the chat on it.
I got you. Okay. Lee and Susan Trainer, how are you? Ashley Schaefer, I just sold another car. Let's see who else we got in here. We got Deb from True Crime Notebook. Any of you guys that are creators, please post your link if the mods don't. Deb is one of the mods, and she's really good. I haven't seen Jinx yet, but she's good about it, and so is Purdue. OG Do Dirty, how are you, my friend? But there's been a lot going on the past couple days.
I feel like there's been a lot of nothing going on. It's like there's a lot going on, but then when I look back at it, I'm like, what, besides the court stuff, like what is anybody really talking about?
Yeah, well, they're getting some good conversations going, but they're also squashing some good conversations.
So what are the good conversations that you've heard?
I went on Criminalities last night. I watched that one, and there's some really, I mean, there's definitely a line drawn in the sand. There's no doubt about that, right? There's no way around that. Anybody can see that.
Mhm.
But there's also, particularly on her channel, she's really good at moderating it and keeping it. She's definitely opinionated, but she's respectful, you know,
Yes.
and I appreciate that. I try and stay that way as well. But you get, some of the conversations that are going on is just arguing, and to me, that's not going to get anywhere. You can argue about it all day long. It's not going to change anything, you know.
Mhm.
I don't have any visions of grandeur that I'm going to be able to change somebody's opinion. J Dub, what's up, my Air Force brother? How are you?
Do you think that is there anything what am I trying to ask? Do you think it would be possible for somebody to present you with some sort of information or an argument to that would potentially change your mind?
Absolutely.
So I kind of I see where you're coming from, but I kind of disagree about changing people's minds because I think as long as people are open, even though it might be a small chance, there still is a chance that you could change somebody's mind. But I know that's also not your goal necessarily. Your goal is just
No,
to go
it's
out and
never.
give information.
Yeah, it's never
And
been. I just do this because I'm an attention whore. That's the only reason I do
at least you're honest about it.
it. Hey, look at me, everybody. But it some now. You see how I can put this. If it's evidence, then yes, my mind can be changed. If it's just somebody with a narrative, then no. I need to see evidence. But absolutely, if
I'm
something
one of
comes
those
out that
people.
nobody knew about, and it happens all the time, law enforcement keeps everything close to the vest. If something comes out that's evidence wise and it's exculpatory, I'll take a look at it. Absolutely. I just can't. Can you think of one alternate suspect and give me a quick rundown that would make me say, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that?
I don't feel like I personally have the knowledge of enough evidence to really do that.
Hmm. Have you ever suspected anybody else?
I have never had a POI.
Okay. Do you now? I mean, where do you stand now?
I think it's likely, I'm not in your camp with Richard Allen, but I think it's more likely than not that he is guilty based on the information that I know right now.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't, just based on the information I know right now, I wouldn't convict him, but I know that it all hasn't been presented either.
Hmm. And I don't claim to know everything, but I do. And excuse me, I know people have an issue with me being pro LE and stuff like that, and there's just no way around that. I had a career in law enforcement. And yes, I did see his video today, Purdue. It was excellent. Did you see that, Ivy?
No, I saw he
Bigston?
had sent me the link to it, but I didn't get it in time before I had to come on here.
It's really well done. It's well done. And him and I share the same kind of thoughts on this whole thing. But
Well, I think it's important. One thing that you do that other people, not everybody, but some other people don't do, is you acknowledge your bias.
mm,
And some people don't do that.
but there's a very good reason. Of course, I think there's a good reason because I'm talking about myself. But there's a good reason for that. Um, Law enforcement, we're the only thing between people and the bad guys. We're the only thing. We're out there fighting the bad guys. We're not out there messing with the general public. Hey, Mayo, how are you? And hello, SP54 and Rescue All the Dogs and Joan. I just didn't want to interrupt. I'll try and catch everybody as they go by, though. But, we were going after the bad guys. And I know what goes into when you turn it over to the DA, to the prosecutor. Law enforcement's already done their job. And if that group of people who I was part of says, yes, he is guilty, I'm going to lean that way until something else tells me otherwise. But I'm not pro system or anything like that. I wouldn't care right now if they took Judge Gull off, got a new prosecutor, new attorneys, brought the old attorneys back in. I really don't care. I don't have a dog in that fight. But if what they did was so wrong, and I can see people that are on the other side. I don't see what they did that was so wrong, other than, and just to call a spade a spade. They did some stupid shit. You know,
When you say they, who are you
the
talking
I'm
about?
sorry, yeah, Baldwin and Rossi,
Okay.
Rossi or Rossi. I think it's
I think
Rossi
it's
actually.
Rosie.
Rosie. Okay, thank you. I
Which
remember him correcting people right off the bat on the stairway case when he first
I
came
think
onto
that's
the
it. Either
case.
that or I've just been wrong this whole time. One of
Yeah.
those.
Well, you're not alone, my friend, because I can't even get people in my own chat's name right. Hey, 63
But
Clucks.
and I think one of the things, I guess, an equivalent to what it sounds like you're saying is, I don't know if you read that Baston or however you pronounce that guy's last name's letter, and it said that he was mistreated in the prison, but that at one point he was like being beaten by a guard, and there was a nurse and a mental health professional watching and just ignoring it. Being in the mental health field, it's very hard for me to believe that somebody in my field would watch that happen and never say anything about it. So I don't believe that. Then it sounds like that's basically what you're saying about being pro law enforcement, because you can't imagine them just lying about it because of your experience.
Hmm. And I worked in the prison system. I worked in confinement. I worked in death row. And believe me, the nursing staff and the mental health staff, they are not mean people. They're not out to get anybody. They're there to provide a service, and they they don't have to have the best bedside manner. Don't get me wrong, but they deal with a lot more than a regular nurse or a regular psychiatrist or psychologist would. You get these guys that are standing naked in the door and cat calling and stuff like that anytime a nurse comes on the wing. You know,
Hmm.
so they deal with a little bit more than the average medical personnel would.
I
But
actually interviewed to work in a women's prison several years ago, and my stepmother she was a teacher. She's been a teacher at a men's prison and a women's prison, and she said when it comes down to it, all they want to like make sure about you is that you won't have sex with the inmates. I was like, all
yeah,
right, I can do that. So I guess
well,
that is a big problem sometimes.
it is a big problem. Um, my buddy LA, he has a channel, LA Wilkes, Thin Black Line.
Hmm.
And I do a show with him every Tuesday at 6, and we talk about all that kind of stuff. And there's been a lot coming out of Georgia recently, and it's been female correctional officers having sex with male inmates. And it's crazy. I just don't understand. Now I can see these guys have nothing better to do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except for plan and scheme and mess with people. So, all they got to do is talk to her a little bit and find out what she's needy for, you know,
Hmm.
and they'll start working on them, you know.
And I would imagine on average, they're probably better at manipulation than like a regular person in the public who
Hmm.
isn't. I hate to stereotype like that, but I would imagine that's the case.
No, you're absolutely right. What's up, Necessary Evil? You're absolutely right, and that's because they learn as they go. There's inmates that are going to be in for 30, 40 years, maybe life, and they have nothing better to do than to learn how to mess with the COs. Now, they don't care about the COs. Automobile says hello. I don't know if you know who that person is.
I do.
Okay.
Otto has been around for forever, as long as I've been around.
Yeah, you've been around for a while. Not since day one, you said, though, right? Hey, Frank.
No, since maybe late 2017, early 2018.
Okay.
So
Uh,
close, but not like some people they remember seeing when they were just missing. I haven't been around that long.
hmm. And I bet you those folks, when the girls were just missing, nobody would have dreamed that it would have gone this far and been like this.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. It really is. But when people they give me shit, they'll be like, "You don't know what you're talking about. You haven't been around since day one." And my answer to them is, thank God, because of you went down those rabbit holes. I didn't have to, because I damn sure would have probably. So I feel like I missed a lot. I came in like I'm not kidding, like 3 days before Richard Allen got arrested.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
it was. I thought it was longer than that.
Mm-mm. No. And I was shocked. The whole thing was, I knew I had shoulder surgeries coming up and I was going to be laid up. So I said, well, let's see what's going on with true crime stuff and things like that. And so then that's how I found out about this case, because I was looking up like serial killers, unsolved crimes. And to be honest with you, I was like, how the hell do they have audio and video of this guy? It's been over 5 years and there hasn't been an arrest. That's crazy to me. And now we find out that he lived, what, less than 2 miles from.
Yes, which is crazy. I've always had an opinion about the video that the video isn't nearly as helpful as it seems on the face, because when you see a video, you're like, well, duh, that's what he looks like. But we see a body in general, but really you can't see hardly anything on his face. So
Mm,
when it comes down to it, like, unless you know him, you don't know him. It's the
right.
same as if somebody showed you a picture of somebody you don't know. Obviously now you know what they look like, but how do you figure out who that is if you don't know them?
Hmm. Agreed. Now, what if they didn't have that video and audio? What do you think? You think we'd still be looking?
Oh, I don't know, because I don't know, because the video is part of the evidence of the person on the bridge is the one who killed them. That's like a big chunk of the evidence of who it was. Not like who the bridge guy is, but that the bridge guy killed them. Otherwise, I don't think it would ever be. I don't think, now that you say that, I don't think it would ever be solved if the police didn't at least have that. Now, if the public wasn't aware of it, I'm not sure that it was actually helpful. In some ways, it was harmful.
Hmm. Hello, Alice. No, I agree. I agree. I have so many questions about this case. As far as, and now, I just let me start with this. I do believe in due process. Okay, you are innocent until proven guilty. I absolutely believe that. My opinion of whether or not he's guilty is based on my background and my confidence, basically, as a whole in law enforcement. But why would he leave the phone there, you think?
Oh, I love that question. I love and hate that question at the same time because it drives me
I
crazy.
know.
Why would somebody pick up basically a GPS device and take it with them? That is the dumbest thing you can do, in my opinion. I think he likely didn't know he was being videoed, and it wasn't like, why would you take it? That's silly to me.
Hmm. Oh, this
What
should
is
be
your
good.
opinion?
I think he just adrenaline just screwed up. It went wrong. Shit went south, and he wasn't thinking straight. He's trying to get out of there. We're talking middle of the day. Let me get. Do you know Big Fish, Small Pond?
I don't know them personally, but I've seen them around a lot.
Okay, she has a channel. I won't say what her channel name is unless she wants me to. But she is a 180 for me. She disagrees with pretty much everything that I say and feel on this case. But I love her to death. She's a sweetheart. She's doing a good job with her channel, and I'm proud of her. I've been watching her get better and better. But
Well,
Fig's
I'm glad I know
video
she's a
was.
she now, because I thought it was a he this whole time.
Oh no, it's female. Fig's video was good, but I didn't have constant reasoning. But didn't have constant reasoning. If RA changed the time he was there because he learned that the time they were looking for someone, RA would. This thing keeps going down on me. RA would already have known that. So she's talking about the timeline, how it changed. And again, I'm biased, guys. Everybody knows that. I don't know why I have to even keep saying it. But that time change came from the defense, not from law enforcement. The defense is are the ones that said that no, he wasn't there at that time. He was there earlier and he left. Well, to me,
No,
I'm not going to say people don't have common sense, but eyewitness testimony is not reliable. It's not. We all know that. But when you have a few witnesses, okay, so you had these three girls that say they saw him at this time at this spot. And then you have an independent witness who saw the three girls at that time. And they had photos that they had taken with timestamps on them before and after they saw him. And then there's another independent witness that saw him. So to me, that's a pretty solid timeline. And for him to try and change it, I don't blame him one bit. And I don't blame the defense for telling him to do that. But it's just not going to fly. I don't think, anyways. What's
I
your
haven't
opinion
seen
on that?
Big's video, but I do agree with what Big Fish Small Pond is saying just in their comment. I think what they're saying is that if, and I'm not saying this is like I don't believe he's guilty because I think that's what is likely the case, but I think they're saying if Ari is guilty, then he would have already known the time that he had to get around. Therefore, he wouldn't have needed to say the wrong time, then change it afterwards. Does that make sense?
Mm-mm. Say that again.
Because if you if you did the crime, you know what time that you need to make sure you're not there. So then it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't make sense if you in your beginning story that you would say you're there at the same time and then change it later. You just from the get-go would have said a different time.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. And he does not. He doesn't seem to be an unintelligent person. So you think, yes, that would have been easy to catch right away and take yourself out of that situation. But again, you'd have to. And I haven't seen transcripts of his interview or his wife's interview, or the video of it would be even better to see body language and nonverbal communication. But that would be a big part of it, to see that, so we can see what he said and how he said it.
That's what I want is just transcripts of that and then the deposition of the things that the defense is trying to say that police lied about. I'd like to see those transcripts too.
Mm.
But on top of what Big Fish Small Pond is saying, another thing I've seen argued is, well, if he did it, why in the world would he keep those clothes and that gun? Why wouldn't he get rid of them?
Agreed. We don't know that. We don't know why. That's what I mean. I don't say. I'm not
I think
saying we
people
don't
just
know that
do
he kept it.
stupid things sometimes.
Yes, most people get caught because they do stupid things. Even ones that think that they can out smart law enforcement. And law enforcement, they don't have crystal balls or anything. They just have proven techniques on investigative strategies, and they work. And sometimes you have to change strategies. Sometimes you have to play good cop, bad cop during an investigation or an interrogation or an interview. Depends what it is.
I think sometimes your paranoia gets you into trouble. Like if you, in your mind, you're like, I need to get rid of these clothes, but then you're like, but my wife does all my laundry. She's gonna notice if my coat's gone that I've been wearing all year or whatever. So then
Mm.
you're like, well, okay, I can't get rid of them.
Yeah, we're
So
talking
then you kind of,
5 years.
yeah, you kind of think yourself into like a box.
Yeah, yeah. He's no mastermind either. Necessary evil. You're right, but he wasn't thinking that he was going to be caught. He thought that he was in the clear. For 5 years, he didn't hear anything back. I have questions about all of that stuff. How did that tip get lost for 5 years?
And
Okay,
wasn't
this one,
there a like an audit from the FBI that went through all the tips and everything again?
I don't know. I've heard several different stories, and none of them came from law enforcement, so I don't know. It's a question that I'm sure will be answered, because if I was a defense attorney, I would bring that up. Toot sweet. Otto has a question. Did Richard Allen admit he was on the bridge before the picture of BG was published? Yes. Now you're talking about the dueling, and I believe that it was Skinner that took that a statement from him, not Doolin.
You don't think it was Doolin?
No.
Why is that?
Skinner had just retired, but he helped. What they were doing is they were canvassing. They were going. They would stand outside grocery stores and go to neighborhoods and knock and talk and all that stuff. That's standard operating procedure. You go around and talk to as many people as you can. Well, if you go to a place where people congregate, like a store, Walmart, the mall, restaurants, you can talk to people as they come and go. So, but Skinner was retired, but he was helping with that. Let's
Doesn't it
see.
say it was Doolin somewhere? Am I making
Yeah,
that up?
Doolin, and I always look closely just because it's a habit on how things are worded, right? And it says Doolin brought them the tip from the Orion system. That doesn't mean he took the
Okay.
tip. You know what I mean? He brought them the tip.
One thing that I had questions about, that even if it's true and innocent, just looks bad on the face of it, is I think I read somewhere that they have audio of the interviews they did with people when they were canvassing, but they
Hmm.
can't find that audio.
Yeah, great. See, that's what makes them look stupid.
Yes. And to be honest, like, what makes them look like they're making stuff up, even though they're
Yeah,
probably not.
absolutely. I am pro LE, but I'm not going to say they don't make mistakes or that they don't do things that they shouldn't do. They get caught all the time, all the time. One of the things that LA and I talk about on his show is just that. Um, he's on medical leave right now because he's been shot for the second time. So he's probably going to get a medical retirement. He had 16 or 17 years. And then Diesel, the other gentleman that's with us, he's the actual chief of police at a police
Hmm.
office in North Carolina. But we're constantly going over how dumb cops are, and we keep it real. I mean, I say things like, they're like, well, if you shoot somebody, and I said, well, dude, that's your fault for not having a throwdown gun. You should have. You should have a throwdown and know how to articulate on the report. Now, I'm not being serious, but we're making fun of law enforcement
Hmm.
all the time. Yeah,
Well,
Diesel said he would never hire me because I'm outside of the scope of duty too much.
tell me if this is typical. So I grew up in a town about half the population size of Delphi. It's very small.
Hmm.
And we have a few full-time police. You have to have a high school education and go through cleat training, which is about 20 hours. And then we have reserve. Oh, sorry.
Squirrel.
My boyfriend did something loud and startled the dog. Let's see. Then we have reserves, and they are volunteer basically, and they get a gun and everything. And it's like, what?
The
That's crazy
reserves
to me.
get a gun?
Yes, the reserves are just like a regular cop, but they don't get paid as much. They get like very, very small. So then you just get people who want guns and power in
Now, have
those
they?
positions.
You may not know this, but do they go through the academy? They must be certified.
They probably go through cleat training, but that's like 20 hours. It's the
No,
same,
that doesn't sound right. I mean,
and
if you
that's
don't
the
mind me
training that
asking, what
our
state is
city
this
do
in?
in Oklahoma, which
Okay.
may be the problem partially. But
No.
it's not like in Tulsa, which is one of our big cities, quote unquote big, you have to have a bachelor's degree and then go through like the academy and training. But this is a small town. So I
Hmm.
always said, like, if something were to happen in my hometown, I don't know how they don't have training for any of that.
Hmm.
So
Now,
like
do they
how
have
would
arrest powers?
yes.
Wow. That doesn't seem too bright.
No. But it's
Yeah.
because they can't find anybody to
Yeah. Well,
do
love to hunt.
stuff.
Skinner's dead. Skinner died. But and just my observation, okay, during the 2019 presser, when they were talking about, has anybody seen the man that was parked at that building? Dolan didn't say anything, which
Yeah,
also
that's
makes me think he
weird.
didn't take that statement. Right.
And maybe he wasn't thinking, and because, well, here's something that I really didn't like that they put in I think it was the PCA. So he said the old Farm Bureau building, and there is one of those. And I know that it doesn't make sense that he would walk from there, so it probably was a CPS building. But the fact that in the PCA they said something along the lines of, but there isn't a building called that, and there never has been. Therefore, we're assuming he's talking about the CPS, but there is a building called that. So, like, that drives me crazy. So maybe from Doolin, if he did take it, maybe from his point of view, in his head, it was the Farm Bureau, or maybe it's just because he took 10,000 different, interviews with
Mm.
people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can see how they would meddle together. But if somebody, and I've said this before, so I hate to repeat myself, but just to set the table here, Murder 101, your first day of class, before your first break, when there's a murder, you want to look at and clear anybody that was at the scene first. Secondly, you want to look at and clear anybody that said they were at the scene. And then you take it from there. So when this guy said he was at the scene, that should have been a ding, 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 ding. We need to clear him. I don't understand why that didn't
They should have
warrant
had like
a
a little
further
pile
look.
going,
Hmm.
like a little list pile of names. And to me, like you were talking about eyewitnesses, you could take all of the descriptions away and just go off of like adult male and do it that way, and you would still end up with the same. There was one man there, according to witness statements at that time, and still come to the conclusion that it's the same guy,
Hmm.
that they're all talking about the same guy without the descriptions.
Right. And that happens a lot. And, wrongful convictions, 70% of them, probably a little bit higher, are from bad eyewitness. They get an appeal and they go back and they found out the witness was wrong or they lied or what have you. So they're not very reliable. And have you ever been to a courtroom during a trial like this?
No.
You've seen them on TV though.
Yeah.
The ones that they've broadcast, like the Casey Anthony and stuff.
Hmm.
Eyewitnesses do not do very well under cross examination unless they're well coached or they're familiar with the system, like law enforcement. Um, even them, though. I mean, you look at the OJ trial. The defense did a great job at getting them to admit to things and slip up, and had nothing to do with the murder, but it attacked their character. So you have to be ready for that as an eyewitness. And already, just from us people that have nothing to do with this, right? We're all interested in it, but none of us solved this case. And I love hearing that too. On the other side of the coin, when people say you haven't been here since day one, I say, well, good, thank God. I didn't have to go through all those rabbit holes. But also, yeah, well, you were, and you didn't. I didn't hear Richard Allen coming out of your mouth. So web sleuths did not solve this case. You know.
Yeah, and I said I didn't have a POI. My POI was always, it's going to be somebody that nobody's ever heard about, because that just seems, statistically, that's what it's going to be. If it was any of these people that popped up, like, we would know by now.
Hmm. Hmm. I love to hunt. They always do. They always do. They'll have detectives, anybody who's not working in a case like this, they'll come in the first few days afterwards and they'll canvass the area and speak to as many people as they possibly can.
Because your memory, I mean, I know it's not quite the same, but think about like when you have a dream, it's pretty clear in your mind for the first 2 or 3 minutes that you're awake, and then, but within even 10 or 15 minutes, it's mostly gone at that
Hmm.
point.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I would not want to have somebody's freedom resting on my testimony. I wouldn't want to be put in that position if it's just
I
going
would
from
almost
memory.
refuse if possible. I again, I think I said this last time. I've lived in my house for like 7 or 8 years, maybe, and I've talked to one of my neighbors. I know the husband is bald and tall-ish, but maybe not like 6 foot. But I've talked face to face to his wife a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
and I could not tell you what she looks like. I'm not even sure. Like, I think she probably has medium to light brown hair,
2 arms, two
and
legs.
that's as close as I could get you. And I see them outside all the time. I just don't
Yeah.
ever look at them.
I don't know who some of these people are. Big Fish is asking, do we believe that FSG, DP, and Brad Heath were around at
Flannel
that
shirt
approximate
guy,
time?
Daniel
Oh,
Pearson, and Brett Heath.
okay. Gotcha. I've
I
taken
think
flannel
the
shirt guy out of the equation on my end, to be honest
flannel
with you.
shirt guy would have been there. Flannel shirt guy and Daniel Pearson got there after the girls were um, abducted, and probably not before he left. Bridge guy left the scene, but they were likely either within 10 or 15 minutes from dying or after they were already dead.
Hmm.
And then Brad Heath, I'm not sure when he got there. I don't, was he there that day? Was he the guy with the dog? He may have
That
been the
was
guy with the black
David
dog.
Riley was the guy with the dog. And that was allegedly earlier, even though he was seen at a later point. Anna says, we're probably wasting our time picking apart Delphi at this point.
But
We
can
don't
you
know
said
everything they
not to do
found.
it?
We don't know everything they found in searching RA's home. He was not arrested till 2 weeks after the first search. So what do you think, Anna? But I remember, looking at, I went back and looked at old lives and stuff like that, and there wasn't like it is now. It's just like there's an abundance of people that are covering this
It's gone
case.
crazy
Mm,
recently.
yeah.
You know what's interesting though? Gray Hughes. And Gray is another one of those people who, for whatever reason, likes to talk shit to me every time he sees me. I don't know what I've done to that man, but I still give him credit. And years ago, he tried to calculate how tall Bridge Guy was using like the he had somebody go out and measure the length of the boards, the what are those called, railroad ties,
Hmm. Hmm.
and use that. And I can't remember exactly the height he got, but I do remember that it was so short he didn't think it was right. It was like 5'4", 5'5", and he's like, "Nah, I can't be right. I must have done something wrong."
But it was right.
So
Yeah,
I
people were
that
hung
always
up
sticks
on
out in my
that
head.
too.
Mhm.
When he first got arrested, everybody was going nuts with that, trying to figure out how tall he was. Can't be him. Yada yada yada. And
Can,
it was surprising to me, to be honest with you, because I'm old. I'm almost 60, so I don't know. I don't still understand the whole dynamics of this online stuff. But people just immediately went anti LE quick. Now, if you lived in that area, they say that there's corruption and all that, and I don't doubt that, not for a second. But not on a double homicide. I'm here to tell you that it would have to be thousands of people that were in on it, and
and they'd
that's a
have to all be on the same page. Is
mm,
the important part of that, I think. Can I answer a question real
yes,
quick?
yes.
Where'd it go? This is a question that I've also been one of my like sticking points for years, and
Oh,
it
let
was
me.
Love to Hunt said it. It said a flannel shirt guy searchers seem to be steering people away from searching over there. Not sure if he was flannel shirt guy. Yes, that's the same person, and I've heard people say that a billion times, and here's why I totally disagree. So Derek, so Flannel Shirt Guy was like at where the trails, you can take the one down to the water or the one to the bridge. And he
Hmm.
asked him, "Were there any girls down there? Did you see anybody?" And he said, "No, there was a couple who was arguing."
Hmm.
And because of that, Derek went the opposite way. And a lot of people say, well, Flannel Shirt Guy pointed him in the wrong direction. Well,
Oh,
first
okay.
of all, the girls weren't down that other one anyway. They were in the woods somewhere. But that was the that was telling the truth. They weren't down there and there was a couple. Like what else was he supposed to say?
Hmm. Well, people are really looking at everything hard, and sometimes you can overanalyze it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but you can overanalyze something that's very simple. It happens all the time. Dan M knew those trails. Yeah. And somebody asked me if I think there's still going to be more arrests, and the answer is yes. I don't, and this is just me. Okay, it's just me. Um, you can believe me or not, but I know there's going to be more arrests. This was not something. Just as soon as I seen what he was charged with, and you're welcome, Otto. And yes, she is awesome.
Don't make
But
me uncomfortable.
just I'm sorry, but just for what the way he was charged, you know, and it's still an open investigation, and they're still taking tips. Now, are they looking at these Odinists? No, they already did that, and they're done with it. I mean, that one's out the window as far as law enforcement's concerned.
I had a question for you, and I was trying to remember what it was. It was based on what what is her name? Is her name Teresa on Criminality? Is that her
Mm-hmm.
name?
Mm-hmm.
It was something she said last night, and basically it was like maybe, and this was from her point of view. So she's, or maybe it was Sleuthy. It was one of them when they were both up there, I think, and they were going off the point of view that the police had lied, and they were like, well, McClelland, like, what if he just didn't know that and he took their word, and now that the stuff's coming out, he's like, I don't want anything to do with this anymore, but he doesn't really know how to get out. So my question for you is, once police like get all their evidence together and they send it to the prosecutor, does the prosecutor, do they just take that as fact, or do they like double check any of it?
No, they take it as fact. Now, during their investigation, now they take that evidence, right? And just to explain real quick, they take that evidence and they plan their attack around that evidence. They decide how they want to present that evidence, because it's all smoke and mirrors, theatrics. We all know that. Well, when they send the discovery over to the defense, they're sending them raw evidence. Right now, they don't have to do anything. They don't have to say, here's the bloody knife. They don't have to say they got fingerprints on it, any of this. They usually do to speed things up a little bit, so that then the defense can just go ahead and get their experts to battle against the prosecution's experts. But when they turn in their evidence, the prosecutor does not go back and vet every piece of that evidence. Um, those are sworn law enforcement officials, and if they get caught lying, that's their ass. That's their ass.
Have you ever seen that happen?
Yes,
What happened? What was like
absolutely.
repercussions?
Fired. Some of them got charged, depending on what the
With
case was.
perjury? Is that what they would get charged with?
No. Well, I mean, perjury is a given if they lied. So they can get charged with any number of things. It all depends on the case and what the prosecutor wants to charge them with. But that happens all the time. That's not a seldom thing that happens. It happens all the time. I'm just trying to.
How many people do you think will be arrested? Or can you say that?
At least one more. At least one more that I'm very confident of. But you get it's all right there, to be honest with you. And to me, it's easy to see. But I don't expect it. I'm not a doctor, so I wouldn't be able to diagnose somebody with something where it would be easy for someone that did have a medical degree. But some of this stuff is just so easy; it's as plain as day. You know. All right, Big Fish. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it, and thank you for the questions.
Now, what you say is easy to see, is the trail that some people are going down with the motorcycle cover and all that, is that
Hmm.
that trail? Same trail?
Yeah, well, that's part of the evidence, and it can't be explained away. It can't be explained away. Now, people have been asking me, right? Well, what have you seen? What do you know? And I've seen a lot, and I know a lot. Have I seen the whole thing? No. But I've always been upfront with, listen, you tell me what law enforcement is doing, and I'll tell you why. They're not just out there beating the bushes. Purdue Ruckus. What bothers me is non-LE critiquing, LE and non-lawyers critiquing lawyers, or non-judges critiquing judges. Most have never stepped foot in a courtroom. Really? Yeah, but that's part of what this whole thing is for. This community is for people to question. But I believe some people take it too far. But I mean, I have a power button on my computer like everybody else does. If I don't like it, what's up, Frank? If I don't like it, I cut it off. That it's not going to ruin my day. But as far as evidence goes, they didn't just take willy-nilly take shit out of Richard Allen's house. And that motorcycle cover does come into play. There's a reason they took it. And to me, it was clear as day why they took it. He doesn't even have a motorcycle anymore. But
I didn't know I hadn't seen anything that confirmed he had one before. I mean, I don't know why else you'd have a cover besides that. And then it was on that outline thing that was leaked to Woodhouse. But I hadn't seen anything else besides that confirming he definitely had a motorcycle prior to.
Yeah, he did have a motorcycle.
Do you know what kind?
No.
Like Harley type or like I can't think of the other.
Yeah, it was a street bike. It wasn't a pocket rocket. It was a cruiser type.
Okay.
But what could tie a motorcycle cover to that area? What possibly? Now, I've seen some people say, and they're using their mind, their brains. They really are saying, well, maybe he dragged the bodies with the cover.
I thought maybe he like covered. Have you seen those things you like put in your back seat for your dog that covers the seats?
Mm-hmm.
Like that for when he got back in the car.
Yeah, those look a lot like motorcycle covers. But there's another. Without giving too much away, it wasn't blood, it wasn't DNA or anything like that.
Somebody, I think it was Deb, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, said that Kathy had made a wreath using part of the cover.
Mm-hmm. That's what I heard too. That's what I heard.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's I can't even imagine. Now the bottom of the motorcycle cover is elastic, and it usually has like a silver portion that goes up about 1.5 feet, 2 feet, because the exhaust is hot. So you can't put that light material on the exhaust; it would melt. So maybe she made a silver wreath out of that material on the bottom because it had the elastic, and
okay,
it could be scrunched up. I don't know the whole full story behind that. I try to look at. There's so much out there, and that's why I have to focus on law enforcement. What law enforcement puts out there is what I'm going to look into. Not what the defense attorneys put out. They should never put anything out anyways, to be honest. Anna, okay, Ruckus, you say something in the search list really got your attention. The motorcycle cover is interesting. The 40 caliber cartridge in the keepsake box is interesting. Your thoughts? Mm-hmm. I don't think anything. Well, let's go back to the 40 cal, right? We now know that on that recording, you can hear a gun cock on that audio. That's been put out there. So, and law enforcement confirmed that. So if the gun was empty and he charged it like down the hill, that would explain where if he charged it again to get compliance, that round being spit out without him realizing it. He's not really thinking. The guy didn't shoot all the time. Now, as far as the magazines go, some of them had 9, some had 8, some had 10. I've got a bunch of magazines, and they have all different amount of rounds in them. When I go shooting, I'll shoot them all and load them back up. But
yeah, and you're talking about 6 years or 5 years later. Like, I know he didn't go shoot, but you saying the same bullets? Like he's never used that magazine again since then? That would be kind of crazy.
He may not have. Some people go a decade without ever shooting their home protection weapons. So, I've seen people that have never shot it, ever. So.
And I think personally, from the research I've done, well, there's kind of a caveat to this too. I think that the science, the ballistics that they're trying to use. I think that science is too soft in my opinion, but I also know that that doesn't necessarily keep it from being used in court. But if they were able to connect the bullets found in his house to the same box or the same like lot, that
Hmm.
would be pretty compelling too, is the one
Yeah,
found.
I mentioned that, and some people mistook that as me saying that, hey, I know they have this evidence. No, what I was saying, and it's very common in cases like this. On the bottom of each cartridge, right, round, there's a stamp with the manufacturer on there. Some of them put the year or the caliber and their manufacturing stamp, but they can take a bullet that they find and go to bullets at his house, take one out of the box, and the manufacturer would be able to tell them if they were made at the same time, the same lot, by the gunpowder, by the markings, by the tooling, all of that. And that's been going on forever. That's not new science. But that's iffy at best, right? Okay, so how many did you make in that lot? 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
So this could have been anybody's. Well, then you couple that together with the serrations, the ejector, the extractor marks, the magazine marks on that particular round. And it's not junk science. As a matter of fact, Turner versus the state of Indiana in 2012. This guy went and shot 3 or 4 people, killed them, and they found out where he went. He went to his ex girlfriend's house, and just by the spent casings that they found at the crime scene, and then they found 2 unspent casings, full rounds, cartridges at the house. They were able to match them, and they still haven't found the weapon. But the science is good enough to where the jury believed that yes, that came from the same weapon, and yes, and he got rid of it. They never found it. Well, this guy went to prison for life, got an appeal, and won, and got a new trial, and lost again on the same evidence with the same exact expert testifying. So
Mm.
it's not junk science. If it works in a jury, you can't consider it junk science. Now the presentation of it may be over the top, may be real good,
Yeah, I
but
disagree with that statement that you just made.
what?
Well, I disagree and agree that if it's not junk science, if it works for a jury, I agree with that statement in as the sense of like it works for a trial and illegally it's not. But I don't agree that that means that like the science itself outside of a trial is as solid as they make it seem, if that makes sense.
Mm. Well, if you can take you take this expert, right? And I'm sure the defenses in other cases like this have tried it, where they take several different guns and they ask him to identify which round was ejected out of which gun. I'm here to tell you they'll be able to figure that out. The tooling marks are are that different. You know how they can find a projectile by the rifle marks? You've heard that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they can match that up. Well, the tooling of the extractor pin, the ejector pin, and the actually going into the breech. There may be a little piece of metal in there that scrapes each bullet, and they have to eject a few out of them, and to say, okay, this matches. But it's the same thing with finding a projectile and matching it up with the rifling. It's the same kind
This
of
is
science.
this is unrelated to this case. I've just always wondered this. So if I'll use myself, I guess, if I were to go kill somebody with a gun
Hmm.
and I came home and I kept that gun because I tell myself it'll look guilty if I get rid of the gun, but I switch out those like the ejector pins and stuff.
Hmm.
Or let's say I shoot somebody so they have like the rifling. I switch out the barrel.
Hmm.
How much does that save you? Like, can they tell still? Or
No, no. If you switch out the trigger housing on a Glock, the ejector pin is connected. The ejector pin stays still. The slide goes back and pushes the round against it to eject it. And the extractor, you can change that little extractor piece as well, and you can change the barrel. Absolutely. Absolutely. But the barrel is stamped with the same identifying number as the um, slide. So if those two don't match, well, you gotta. It's nobody's business. You can do what you want, right? That's your gun, but you have to explain if they present
So
that
if
to you.
anybody is going to go kill somebody, make sure you get a duplicate gun and you switch out the barrel and the slide those
But
together,
well,
and then
but
sell
no,
it.
do it now so you have one on
Yeah.
hand. Don't do it after you kill them because then they got receipts. A lot of people get caught doing that too. There's been people that tried that, and they either order a barrel online or they go and buy one and they nail them. They nail them. But I know people that are into guns. They swap the barrels out all the time. They're
Yeah.
constantly doing stuff with their guns. Oh, let's
I
see.
never finished it because of my ADHD, but I got like 80% through building an AR, which is pretty fun.
Hmm.
And that's all you do is just get a bunch of parts.
Now, see this, Buddy Rich. This is the kind of stuff that just cracks me up. Here's his response to that, or her response. So, if he dropped a spoon, they could match it to the spoons in the kitchen, automatically guilty. No, I'm not saying he's guilty because of that. I'm saying he's guilty because of the totality of it. They may get that bullet thrown out, and there's a very good chance that they can.
But if somebody, like, let's say somebody killed somebody by bludgeoning them with, I don't know, something like that from the kitchen, and it had been dropped before, and there was a mark in there, and that mark was left on the like skin of the person where you hit them, that
Hmm.
would be evidence,
Sure,
right?
sure. Everything's evidence, and it's not good enough anymore to have somebody on camera committing a crime. You know. Now, Anna, this we were talking about this a little bit earlier. I don't know if you heard it, but yeah, if why would he keep all that stuff if he knew he did it? Why would he keep all that stuff? Agreed. You know how many people get convicted over shit that they should have got rid of a long time ago? Happens every day. None of us can really put ourselves in his mindset or anybody else that would do something like that's mindset. We don't think like that. You know, we're not that breed of
I've
human
seen people
being.
argue, like, well, what would the motive be for him? And they typically go back to, like, you know, how people were saying revenge because of, like, Derek or something, a CSAM motive. Sometimes people just want to kill other people,
Hmm.
and that's the motive.
Well, we still don't have a motive or intent. Now, I did a whole 5-part series because everything that I've seen and the stuff that I have gone over and I've looked at, points me to him being guilty. But we don't know the intent. Well, from what I've seen and what I gather, it was an abduction. You can't tell me they charged him with kidnapping. So what do they know that they charged him with kidnapping?
I think that's just part of the murder charge.
They could have just
Like,
charged
are
him
you
with
saying you
murder.
think it was like an abduction that gone wrong? Is that what you're saying?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I
Why
mean,
would
he certainly
why would
wasn't
he
going to
walk them all
kidnap
the way
him.
back?
Right. He certainly wasn't going to kidnap them and walk them back to his car at the CPS building, was he?
Is that where the motorcycle comes in? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. No. Thanks. I'm going to get emails now.
You're welcome.
That's okay. I enjoy it. I answer them all as well. Do you think this was his first kill? Yes. Yes, I do think it was his first kill.
What do you think about that? I hear that all the time is like, you know, how often do you see a guy in his 40s or 50s who doesn't have a criminal background at all kill somebody now?
Hmm. It's happened. It's happened a lot of times. Now we don't know his background yet. Now, was he a budding serial killer? With those signatures, if they weren't ritualistic, was that his signature? So he makes sure that the next time he does it, he leaves that same thing, so he gets credit for his kill, because that's what them sick assholes want is credit. You know. Yeah, you're right, Anna. But they're every bit as identifiable as rifling marks. And they've proved that this is not, and all this will come out. Just because people haven't heard of this stuff doesn't mean that it's not good science and it's not been used. Yeah, that Wabash search is going to come into play. Absolutely. Oh, Boston, I didn't see you. Oh, here we go. At Anna, when I see him in his crazy looking pic, sometimes I think he was more in the mindset to just survive day to day. He couldn't think straight. Just go to work and try and seem normal. Yeah, and he was also an alcoholic. And trust me, we used to call jail redneck rehab because alcoholics would come in all the time and they'd have to stay for 30 days. The withdrawals from alcohol are worse than heroin.
And they're dangerous. You can
They
die.
hallucinate. Yeah, yeah. So I wasn't shocked at all with his appearance, you know. And I used to bust people's chops saying, look, okay, yeah, go sign him out. Take him home. Give him a foot rub, milk bath, put a mint on his pillow. I don't give a shit. Just get him to court, you know. I don't care where they put him, to be honest with you. I think there's just a lot to do about nothing. People just want to argue each and every little thing. It's gone from what I've seen. It's gone from um, police doing a good job on getting this guy to law enforcement a piece of shit and they're liars and we're going to prove it. When I'm here to tell you, you're not. All these people that are like, well, we're going to prove his innocence. No, you're not. Yeah, Otto, they have more evidence. Hi, Teresa. They do have more evidence. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Anthony. Thanks for coming in. Now, if you take the totality of all the evidence, right, Ivy?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the defense has a tough road to hoe right now? Road to hoe.
I think any time somebody has been charged, they're, I was going to say they're on the defense, but like obvious, that's what they're called. But I think they have a tough time because as much as our system is innocent until proven guilty, there is an assumption of guilt, usually, for the
Mm-hmm.
jury. So there's that. But yeah, there's evidence. So it's hard to, even if, what am I trying to say? Even if evidence isn't accurate, it's still hard to refute sometimes unless you have a very like cut and dry, no, I was here and can prove it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my non answer.
That's fine. That was very good. Yeah, Michael, I addressed this last time. I tried to, anyways. I'm not going to tell everything that I know, everything that I've seen. I'd like to work on unsolved cases. That's what I spend most of my time doing. But Richard Allen, in my eyes, is guilty. And until there's more evidence that proves he's not guilty, that's what I'm going with. I trust my law enforcement brothers and sisters in doing their job. Now, why? We don't know that. We were just talking about that. What was the motive? What was the intent? You know? Yeah, well, I love to hunt. That happens a lot too. People like, I can't believe I've been married to him or her for 20 years and I never knew this. BTK's family was shocked.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I don't know. Like I said, if you could show me some evidence that points away from him, I've tried to look for other people. I even looked at that Odinism thing. Even though I thought, my mindset was, well, law enforcement must have checked that out. And they did. So now the whole thing with Holman saying, oh, I can't remember what the Purdue professor's name is, that's all posturing. Uh, they're going to lie to the defense as much as the defense lies to them. That's just part of posturing. I don't even know why Holman was even involved with any of that. All the evidence has been turned over. So anything that he did should be documented already. What up, LA?
Oh, that reminds me of a question that I've heard asked a bunch that maybe you can answer.
Mm-hmm.
Is it there's a two part to this. Once somebody's been arrested, is it normal to continue investigating and having an open investigation? And is it normal to not clear people after you've arrested somebody?
It depends on the circumstances. Um, they've arrested him. They said he's guilty, but they still have an open investigation. Now, they can't let too much information out. For any of you guys, this is LA, the guy I was talking about earlier. We do a show on Tuesday nights over on his channel, Thin Black Line Network. And we make fun of law enforcement all the time. All the time. We're pro LE, but LA will tell you real quick it's the worst job in the world. And I wouldn't have anybody doing that job. I'm sorry, I got us off track there. Now, what was your question? Because I got totally off track.
Okay, I'll ask you this one. There's another one that I don't want to miss. I was trying to see if you'd gotten past it, but the one I just asked you, and this is for Radar. She was the one that was really worrying about it or wondering about it. After there's an arrest, is it normal to continue investigating and like having the tips line open and whatnot? And is it normal to not clear people like family members and such? Publicly clear, I guess.
Right. Now, we don't know who they've cleared and who they have not cleared. And this is another one of those things where before I looked into it, I was positive that other people are involved in some capacity. It's still an active investigation. But there's more people involved. That's why they haven't said who they cleared. They're not giving up information. Why are people still talking to law enforcement about this case? They should be talking to the prosecutor. They've already turned the case over. And, people that are digging in, especially Jerry Holman, right? There's people out there that are saying he's the biggest liar ever and he's a piece of shit. Well, then he does this PC. Actually, another person wrote the PC, but he investigated that leak. He's the one that investigated it. Well, now because they like what he said, now he's not a liar anymore. They cherry pick.
I can't stand that. That drives me crazy.
Yeah, and it's not even worth pointing it out, but I did last night on criminalities. I did point out last night, but they were quick to tell me that he didn't write the PC; it was somebody else, and they shut it down. But he's the one that investigated. It says it right in that report. He did the investigation on it. That happens all the time. Somebody will investigate it, turn it in, and one of the desk sergeants or whatever will write the PC. That happens a lot.
So if it was a lone wolf situation and they caught the lone wolf and they arrested him, would it be typical to keep the tip line open?
No.
Would it be typical to clear somebody else officially, publicly,
No.
or would they just leave it?
No. They just leave it.
Okay.
That'll all come out in trial. All of that will come out in trial because the defense will bring all that up. They'll bring up alternative suspects and stuff like that, but they have to prove it. All right,
and there's always the tiny chance that they were wrong and they figure out they're wrong, and that this person they cleared, like there's still that tiny chance that person they cleared was involved, and now they can't go back because they already said they were cleared. So then the defense is going to argue that.
Well, that's why they're. Let me get this super chat real quick from Charlotte. £4.99. Thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving to all friends from across the pond. Thank you as always, Ruckus. Fondest love. Thank you, Charlotte. I appreciate it. But what they did was, in law enforcement, they all use different verbiage. Toe specifically, he wouldn't use the word cleared.
Covered.
Yes, he uses the word covered in case they have to circle back around to that person again.
Which is smart.
It is smart. But, the public doesn't like that kind of thing. Now, like I said, I come from a generation where we were pro law enforcement. We were glad that they got the bad guys. Now there just seems to be a whole bunch of people that just are anti-law enforcement that I had no idea about. I mean, I'd run into them on the job every day. But look who I had to deal with. You don't expect it to be a housewife who comes online and bashes law enforcement as a hobby, and that's everybody's prerogative. I don't, I'm not going to talk down to anybody that does that. It's just, to me, with the generation I grew up with and being in law enforcement, it baffles me why anybody would be like that. We're the good guys, you know.
I
Now,
think
are there
there's a
bad ones out
lot.
there? Yeah.
I feel like I could talk an hour about that. I think there's a lot that goes into that. I think part of it is the fault of how this investigation's gone and the I understand like the need for secrecy, but the over the top secrecy. And then that's part of it. But then I think another part of it is society in general right now is, for many reasons, prone to not believe evidence-based fact and like the whole alternative fact era.
Hmm. Well, we've all seen. I mean, the internet is a double-edged sword. It's good and it's bad. But we've all seen cases where people accuse law enforcement of doing something, and thank God they had a body cam or a dash cam to prove them wrong. Also, there's been law enforcement that are doing things they're not supposed to do. Again, thank God for body cams, dash cams, or people recording them.
Hmm.
It's gone both ways, but it's a shitty job. People don't understand that. We talked about that on the show the other night with LA and Diesel. People do
And
not
you don't even get
understand.
paid very much. Like
No,
it's a,
at all.
I don't know.
And
I wouldn't do it.
it depends where you work. Now, LA made good money. He's in Philly. But I mean, that's a rough place to work. But he did a shitload of overtime as well. This pretty much all the overtime you want in law enforcement. But who wants to do it? You get caught up in some bullshit. Yeah, I agree. Now, I retired before body cams and all that bullshit. Thank God. Thank God. Because I am different than how you would deal with the situation. You and I would deal with it totally differently. On a lot of my evaluations, they would say basically that, he says shit that nobody else can get away with, but it's effective and it works. He gets the right response. Whereas you probably couldn't act like that. You do things a different way. It's just my personality, you know. I would use humor or anything like that, anything to quell a situation. Ruckus, our generation naturally believes the best of folks, respecting authority perhaps a bit too blindly, though. Yeah, and the internet has really exposed that. Has really exposed that. I mean, how shocked are you at some of the things that you see on the internet, Ivy?
Oh, so there was a and then I want to go back to this comment that was way back there after this. I
Okay.
can't remember the details, but there was fairly recently in the last year in a small town in Oklahoma, there was a reporter, a local reporter going after police. Um, I can't remember why, but they were investigating him, and they left a recording device in the room where they were having their city council meetings, and then they went into like the private meeting afterwards. Well, they left it in there, and then there was somewhere else, and they were like talking super racist, but then talked about killing that reporter. There, somebody was like serious about it. Like, I've got a backhoe, like in a lot of property, we can make it happen. And it was crazy. Like, what? It
It,
was scary.
but it's funny though because and I agree. I agree. And LA and I have addressed this on one of the shows as well. He's black, I'm white, right? I'm old, he's young. If you seen the texts between him and I, you'd be appalled. We have
But
this
they're
like
but you're friends.
but we have like this gallows humor as well. Some
Hmm.
things that we think is funny, other people get pissed off when we laugh at it.
But that's required to, I think, to be able to cope with those types of jobs.
Hmm. Well, I mean, people want robots anymore, is what it seems like to me. But I
That
agree with LA that and my son said the same thing. He loves his body cam because it makes you act right in situations because
hmm.
you know it's recorded. We were talking on the show Tuesday where Diesel, he's a chief. He said that he has a guy that was working for him. I don't know if he still does or not. That would turn his body cam off during stops and stuff like that, and then
That's
turn it
crazy to
back
me.
on when he go. To me, that's ridiculous.
That's a
Why would
red
you want to
flag.
do that? Exactly. But there's never been any issues. There hasn't been any complaints or any of that. So what do you do? You know,
I think
and
that should be an automatic write up. If you like, maybe if you can prove your like battery or something went down, but I feel like there should be like something that flags the system when somebody manually turns it off, and
mm,
it should be like an automatic write up. There's no
I
reason to do
agree.
it.
And I bet you Diesel would agree with you, but he has to abide by whatever the rules and stipulations are.
Hmm.
There
One
may
of the
be a regulation change that comes out of something like that, you know.
one of the comments that already went by a long time ago, but I have it paused, and I feel like I've heard you talk about maybe like looking into other cases. Is that the case?
Me?
Yeah,
Talking about what cases?
just in general, like looking into other cases.
Yeah. Yeah, I looked.
Well,
I'm looking at like 3 or 4 right now.
there's this one case that technically is already solved, but Shane, I don't know how to pronounce Shane's last name. Is it Considine? He commented a little while ago, the Walika double child murder on way to a bridge. Now, he did kill his fiance the week before, but he went mad. He actually killed his fiance like years later. But that is a very interesting case. It's from near where I am from. And what's interesting about it is that the the sketch they gave was the stereotypical slender Indian Native American guy with a long hair and a ponytail and a truck. These two little girls were killed walking down a dirt road in the afternoon.
How long ago was this?
Two, um, 2007, 8,
Okay.
6. Two different calibers were used shooting. And there was, I think that they had determined they weren't sexually assaulted, but don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure semen was found under the shorts of one of the girls. And I think one of the girls, there was something else that was weird like that. There was a few things that pointed to two people, but the guy that ended up being charged with it and convicted, I think he pled guilty actually. It was just one person, and the only reason they found him is because he killed and burned his fiance several years later. But what's weird though is like, how often does one person use two different calibers?
Not very.
So
Not
like
very.
that's always bothered me, and
It,
I
in a
don't
mass
think it's
shooting,
connected.
that's common. You know, they bring an
This is just,
AR-15, a shotgun, and a pistol. No, I understand what you're
yeah.
saying, but that's the only time you think that was common. Yeah, if you email that to me, I would love to
And they have the
take a look at it.
autopsies and everything. So there's a bunch of information about it. I'll send it to you.
Okay. Shane may have, because I like Shane. Shane has some good comments, and he may have sent it to me or discussed it with me at one point. Yeah, poor Drew. Poor Drew is right. I'm glad you mentioned that. I gotta call him and wish him happy Thanksgiving. He's a good guy. You
Is
guys
that in
have,
the Evansdale?
yeah. You guys have no idea how cool he is. I mean, you've seen him on here and me talking with him and stuff, but to meet him in person and hang out with him and stuff, he's fantastic. So is Larry Crum.
He was vilified so much for a while, wasn't he?
Mm,
But with like putting into like drugs and stuff by the public.
yep. Well, his sister-in-law really took the brunt of that, and her husband, Lyric's parents.
It's unfortunate.
Mm.
I don't, but
No,
like why would you shoot two different ones? Like even if it does take two different ones, why would you use two different ones? Why wouldn't you just use the same one?
it was. I mean, there's any amount of reasons. Maybe he only had one round in one. Maybe it jammed. Maybe it broke, and he went to his vehicle and got another weapon. We don't know. Now, if he confessed, they must have got something. I will tell him. Love to hunt. I'm gonna call him after I'm done here. But I mean, how many people have a weapon that shoots that you can actually load two different calibers into and it'll function?
I've only seen ones where you have to switch out. There's like a adapter barrel type
Hmm.
thing
Yeah,
that
usually the
makes it shoot like
barrel or
yeah.
the cylinder. If it's a revolver, the cylinder needs to be changed out. Now, a Smith and Wesson 38 plus P round um, is a different round from a 38, and you can use both of those in the same gun, same barrel, same um, 38 round can look a lot like a 357. Yeah, it can, but you can use the same everything on a revolver. So that can happen. But I mean, I don't know many people that even know that. That would even think to load two different types of rounds. Do you know what size rounds they were? Do, do either you or
No,
Shane?
I was just trying to look at. I was trying to look at the autopsy real quick, and it was the in the autopsy that it said the holes were different size. There was like two different sizes of holes, basically.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah, if it's way out, if it's like a 22 and a 38, that's two different weapons. So, I mean, we'd have to take a look at that. But yes, you are weird, necessary evil, and I wouldn't have you any other way. But all right, we've been going for like an hour and a half almost, and I usually like to keep it about an hour, but you're so interesting and fun to talk to. It
Oh,
just
I
goes
can talk
by.
forever.
Not that well, that's what I like, and you bring a lot to the table. You have different opinions. You very clearly have common sense, which is not so common these days. Believe me.
Yeah,
Something.
unfortunately.
I always say some of these people I deal with, if they walked around the corner and someone hit them in the face with a pie, if it didn't affect their vision, they would walk around with pie on their face all day. They're just oblivious to things, but it doesn't stop their mouth from going, does it? You
No,
know?
it doesn't.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes
crazy.
they tend to talk more when they're like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And people that get triggered online and stuff like that and try and piss each other off, that cracks me up too. It's like, why? I mean, what do
I'm not going to say I've never been involved in that. So no comment.
you? Okay, I'll leave that one alone then. I just say and do what I want. I don't. If it gets a rise out of somebody, oh well. I'm not trying to do that. You know. But okay. There should be some more. We really didn't even discuss the Westerman stuff. Because this has been really interesting trying to get people's point of view and get the conversation steered towards this case and why it is where it's at and why there hasn't been more arrests. And, there's still people that honestly believe he's innocent. And I have no problem with that. They're not being malicious. They just believe he's innocent. And I'm fine with that. I'm
I guess
fine with
one
that.
more question since you mentioned that. Do you think there will be any more arrests
Yes.
leak related?
Oh, leak related.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. There's a few people that haven't been mentioned yet that were involved with it, but who knows? Who knows? They could have talked to law enforcement and rolled, you know. So
I thought it was already over before he was arrested, so I think it's
yeah,
over now too. But
yeah. It's it's been a good sideshow, you know. But people are acting with malicious intent. Well, then they should get in trouble,
and it's a
you know.
very small charge anyway.
Yeah, but still, I mean, he was being malicious. He knew what he was doing. He knew why he was doing it. I just hate to see shit get this far over a pissing match.
Yeah.
Over, hey, I know more than you and you're wrong. I'll prove it to you. I just don't get that. That's the way I am. All right, LA, you gonna send me some stuff and I'll see you Tuesday, my friend.
Well, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and
Absolutely.
thanks for having me on. I'll send you that stuff, and you can take a look at it.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time, Ivy. You're awesome.
All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right, take care. All right. Um, Ivy's awesome. Any chance I get to get her on, I will. Um, she's fun to talk to, and you guys see she's easy to get along with, even if you disagree, and I like that. And for the rest of you guys, listen. Don't take any wooden nickels. I'll talk to you later. Have a good night. My name is Ruckus. Thanks for hanging out. Please like, subscribe, and share. I'm 10-7.